A&P by John Updike, one of our most requested short stories to cover. We're finally doing it today. I'm pretty sure I've never read this before in my life.
Would you whistle at me if I was wearing a bathing suit, Una?
So I'll say this. I didn't look up anything about this story, so my reaction today is going to be just me reacting to the text. So if there's anything about John Updike's life or anything completely irrelevant to me, I'm just going at this straight. And one of the things that just hit me immediately about Updike's writing is one of my first big boy jobs, that wasn't paid by the park district or whatever, was being a cashier. I really resonated to how monotonous, and it's it's the lady that is watching for all the coupons, making sure all of her coupons rang through and is ready to challenge when something doesn't ring up on sale. But I totally understood the monotony that this boy was in to start the story off.
I think a lot of people can relate to that first job you're excited to do because you're going to make money. And then when you start doing the job, you're realizing that probably whatever it is, work sucks because it's so repetitive. And that's where we kind of enter the story with Sammy. Is there's a break in his norm, I feel like, to kick the story off. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you were a young boy once. I'm not saying we need to get crass, but I have no idea. I mean, it was 1961. I have a pretty good idea how audiences reacted to this. I get that we've become more loose, less conservative when it comes to dress code and stuff like that. And I'm sure this story might have been even more shocking the way it was released. Maybe when we talk about Shirley Temple and you read The Lottery today, it's not all that shocking, but can still be, felt. I still resonated with that fixation and excitement that the boy felt when quote unquote Queenie and her two bees, worker bees, came in. I get that idea of where you start to create this world, this fantasy around them, right? I remember there was a girl in my school and I would have these, nothing crazy, but it'd be situations where I'm saving her from some guy that's being mean or just something ridiculous. There would just be this romanticism that entered into my mind somehow when I probably was just trying to escape from the boredom of my day-to-day life.
As I read the story, obviously looking at it from a point of view of, okay, this is, quote, dated. But a lot of times my brain went to, why is this so risque, so to speak? Because I remember working one of my early jobs at a marina, and people went in and out of the little gift shop / convenience store all the time in bathing suits and flip-flops, and it wasn't a big deal. And I think about going to Walmart and stuff when I was a young child. You see all the craziness there of, different people wearing things or not wearing things. And so I didn't understand why it was that big a deal. But from Sammy's point of view, I don't know if it just comes off as something that is not the norm, or it's just him being a young man and it having that sexual charge to it. And that's where I kind of went more with the story of, this is him almost as a coming of age story of embracing his desire for the opposite sex.
Okay, I can see that. I mean, this came out in 61? I do know that much, I think. And when we look at this, when we think about the age of rebellion, every generation is kind of about rebelling against the previous generation, right? And that's not even just culturally. If you look at musical movements, they're typically reactions to what was popular at the time. It's how you break that mold. And I completely agree. I had this coming of age feeling about the story with Sammy, but I also had this idea of they were an excuse to rebel, right? Everyone was expected to dress a certain way. And yes, whoever the grocery store owner would have been appalled by women on Instagram today. That's for sure. But I think the takeaway though, is that he wanted to rebel And I think he was looking for reactions from them at the same time.
And my interpretation of the story, I feel like this is Updike's purpose. He is pushing the boundaries. He looks at his society and maybe where it's going. And I didn't look up anything either. So I don't know if this is a cautionary tale or if it is a progressive tale for Sammy and where young men are acceptable to what is going on around them. But it definitely seems to be the major talking point of what influence will this have between the different generations and what impact will this have between men and women?
Or does it have no impact at all, right? Like to skip to the end, I think the girls were, I think he wanted to impress them. Okay, let's even back up further. You and I started out this conversation by calling him Sammy. We started out this conversation of knowing all these things that happened by the end, but like Updike hides some information from you about Sammy, like that he got the job there because of his parents. Like we were just working there, like, and he was just a boy. Like we didn't even know his name right away. We knew his age, like eventually based on like reverberation from the other worker. But like Sammy, by all intents and purposes, by my interpretation of the story, was kind of invisible. He was a part of the system of just working because his parents got him a job, aka nepotism, right? Until he decided to buck that system, to flirt with the excitement of something new, which was the excuse was Sammy. The excuse was perhaps a girl that he's attracted to. And so he left his job. Like he quits. I'm out. And the guy's like, you're going to regret this. You're not going to, and this is a guy that probably knows more about this world than 19-year-old Sammy, or was he 23? Somewhere around there, young, right? And the guy's like, you're going to regret it. Your parents, they're going to look down on you. And Sammy goes out into the parking lot, and rather than like joining a party, putting his arm around the girl and hanging out, he's alone. He doesn't know what to do. It's what he thought bucking the system and rebelling against what the previous generation would bring about all this excitement. He ends up like almost like in this, like in my mind, like this like desert like apocalypse of just like, oh, I don't know what to do now, because it goes back to like we've had that talk before. When you run away from home, like when you're like 8 years old and you grab your blankie and stuffed animal and you're like, I'm out. And then you like get to the neighbor's house. You're like, I don't know what to do now. Like I kind of felt that was Sammy.
Sammy definitely goes on this journey, and it's sort of a coming of age journey. He thinks about what he wants and he goes after it, and then reality smacks him hard in the face when he's looking in the window at the end and realizing, oh crap, I messed up. That the queen does not want a broke, jobless teenage boy. She wants a man that can hold his own. And he realizes, I might have screwed up. But it's a lesson learned. And I think that's the point, is that Sammy is able to learn those lessons, and I think he'll be better for it in the end.
And maybe the lesson is this is the beginning of his definition, right? Maybe the hopelessness, the despair can also be exciting because it's a blank slate. He now gets to define what he does as his next step after he answers to his parents, assuming he's still living at home, right? But I think you could almost have like the optimistic, half glass full approach to this of, oh, I can define my life now and make it what I want. He doesn't have to jump into the structure and reality of the Queenie and being another worker bee the way her two friends were. He can now almost like define what happens next. And I think that can be exciting too, even though I think that is obviously a rainbow on the cold water splash ending here.
Definitely can go either way, I feel like. Sammy is the main character, but there also is another side to this coin of Queenie and the girls, and we touched about it a little bit, of the sexual charged nature of the story as well. And I wanted to get your thoughts on, because I feel like Updike here, he's throwing a grenade into the 1960s mentality, coming off of hometown America of 1950s. we're maybe entering into the 60s revolution here. He knows what he's doing, that this is going to cause an argument. This story, I feel like, is predicated on the idea that it's going to start a fight. Because you drop this into a college class, you drop this into, a high school AP Lit class, it's going to start arguments. It's going to start a conversation. It's going to start fights.
Well, I guess what was the question exactly? Like, do I think John Updike knew what he was doing?
Yeah. Do you think that's one of the key purposes of this, is to start that fight of knowing what we know now of the 60s sexual revolution into the 70s? Do you think that he kind of saw the writing on the wall? This is where America was headed. That we, like you said in the beginning, we're leaving the past of our parents. That we're challenging, the norm.
Yeah, redefining things. I think that's every generation. Every generation wants to redefine what the world is. Like, don't you remember graduating from college and being like, I'm gonna like totally like just kick butt at this new job and take on the world, and then the world hits you and you're like, oh, okay, all right, okay, I'll fall in line. Like, there's the few that can push through that, right? And I think that's what's interesting about a coming of age story. It's not a how I did it story. It's now he's gonna face the world in the same way that, okay, you said show it to an AP Lit class or et cetera, right? Students, what are you going to do at this point? You've now realized disappointment. You've realized disenfranchisement. You've realized the breaking of the wall of fantasy versus reality. Are you a person that goes back to the job? There's no going back, right? According to Sammy. Or are you a person that now defines it? The person that says how I'm going to push forward, how I'm going to make a name for myself, and how I'm going to change the world, right? Because that's what the world needs, is those leaders, because there's plenty of followers. Right. We need those people that can set that vision and move forward. And I think that's what's interesting, is we're left at that precipice of what is Sammy going to become?
Yeah, they're all challenging the rules of society, and especially Queenie. She's challenging them with her prowess and her physical form. And I feel like that was something that is always seeming to push the boundaries. You mentioned music, literature, how we hold ourselves, how we dress. It's all of these concepts and ideas put into physical form of how one generation challenges the next. And you'd mentioned, Instagram or TikTok or any of those things, how the younger generation challenges the norms of the past, of defining what does a job mean, what does influence mean, how can I use the things that I have been given to change my own outcome and change the outcome of others through that influence. It feels like Updike was ahead of the game here, knowing that the different powers that young people had on the influence of their societies.
And okay, cold water time, right? If John Updike can do it, I can do it too. What if you don't know? Like, what if Queenie actually didn't know she was dressed so ridiculous for the store? Like you said, like people in the marina, they'd walk around like that all the time. What if this was the normal for Queenie? Like, in the same way that you've seen those like YouTube videos where they like show behind the scenes footage of like hot girls and the interactions that they have. And then they find out, like, if they lived like an uglier life, like if they like dressed down and look more homely, they realize like, oh, I've never been treated like this. I always have had these special privileges. They didn't know, right? I think they assume, but they may not know, because like it's hard to know. What if Queenie just doesn't know? What if she doesn't know that she's creating this movement, this wave behind her? Like, you always have those people too.
And I agree with you. Now, a younger crypto would not have agreed with you, because I wouldn't have seen this in my own life. When I was a teacher and I expected things of my students as a young teacher many, many years ago, I was confused by that. And then over time, I realized they didn't live the life that I lived, that their norm at home is very different of how things are spoken. And I used to get so angry about when a kid would curse. And eventually I realized that that's the norm in their life, dropping curse words, because that's how their parents speak. That's how their friends speak all day long. You know, they're in my classroom for 45 minutes, but for many hours of the day, that is their normal speech. And it used to boggle my mind. So yeah, I think that dressing that way and behaving that way, Queenie could be emulating what she's seeing in her family and friends, so it's not abnormal. Now, I think Updike does a pretty good job of, you know, like when she pulls the money out of her, you know, bathing suit from her cleavage, she kind of knows what she's doing. At least in my interpretation, it felt like that was very deliberate. Again, maybe she doesn't have any pockets in her bathing suit, so where else are you going to hold it? But it feels like the way the specific words that Updike uses to describe her and the other girls, again, seems very deliberate.
From Sammy's point of view, at least, though, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Again, we don't get Queenie's point of view. It would be a very interesting story to see if she is doing this intentionally to manipulate Sammy into getting something that she wants.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, there's the sequel. We need the story from Queenie's point of view.
Oh, that'd be a great story. You should write that. I have faith in you.
All right, let us know if you're going to write that sequel out there, and let us know what your favorite interpretation of the story was. Do you think Queenie was doing it on purpose, and do you think this little boy is going to go on to change the world, or do you think he's running back to mom and dad and accepting his job the next day? Let us know in the comments down below. My name's been Una. Thank you for spending time with us today. Peace.
Peace.